We've got another news alert on Boeing. Transportation Secretary Elaine Chao saying the White House is not pressuring regulators to unground the 737 MAX. In an interview with Reuters, Chao said that economic issues will not be a factor in the decision to unground that airplane. That news just crossing right now. All right, let's get now to Phil LeBeau, who's got more, not only probably on this, but also more on Boeing in general out of Chicago. Phil.
And, Brian, just to play off of what you were talking about, there has been this theory floating around, I would say mainly for the last 3 or 4 days. People, and I've heard from people who have emailed me and said, is there any chance that Boeing suspended MAX production so they could get the White House say, look, you're going to hurt the GDP, you're going to hurt the economy. Look, eventually these people might have to be laid off. And I heard no indication of that from people at the FAA. I've gotten zero indication that there is the idea that the White House is pressuring them. None at all. So this plays into that with Elaine Chao saying that economic factors will have no bearing on the decision of whether or not to ground or unground the 737 MAX. We want to talk about how many cancellations that we've seen because United was out today. There's a big number for you, Brian. Are you ready for it? 145,000. That's how many U.S. 737 MAX flights have been canceled if you go from March 13th, when the grounding started, all the way through when we expect the MAX to be grounded for in the spring of next year. United out today is the latest. And yet it's interesting with United because while American and Southwest have said we're going to take it off the schedule till early April, United said, you know what, we're going to do it until June 4th. That's when we plan to fly the plane again. So if you're keeping score, you've got American and Southwest planning to bring it back in early April, and then you've got United saying we're going to bring it back in June. There's always the chance, guys, that if this plane gets recertified faster than expected, they could bring the plane back a little bit sooner. But as of right now, those are the latest plans. And just a reminder, as you take a look at shares of Boeing, production on the 737 MAX will be halted probably early January. They don't have an exact date right now. There's a few planes that are still in process as they work those through and finish building those, Brian. But that's when we will see production halt in January.
And you wonder how they're getting those dates. Those airlines saying June's this, April that. I mean, nobody really knows. It could be in the summer. And more can add to that 145,000 number for canceled flights. Phil LeBeau, thank you very much, buddy. Great Friday. A lot of work this week. Have a great weekend. Phil, thank you very much. All right, so guys, Boeing down 13% this quarter. At this rate, it's going to join 3 others as one of 4 Dow stocks. Then it'll be 4 that are down on the year. Boeing,
this tragedy has been going on.
It looks like investors are starting to give up on the stock.
The tragedy happened when? October of 2018? Yeah. And then after that, it was March of 2019. It's been going on for some time now. And Boeing has been hanging on to a profit year to date. Now it's up about 1% or so. Probably going to go negative. I get it that it's a duopoly. I get it that it should be somewhat safe. But I think you want to avoid it now. There's so many layers to the story. But what it is bullish for are the airlines. I'm long Spirit Airlines, Save. You take supply off the market, and it helps the airlines. There's been a couple of upgrades in the airline space as well. Save is where I'm long.
I agree with Steve. The unintended consequences of this are actually more supply discipline out of airlines. But to be clear, Boeing's been a sideways stock for 21 months. I mean, even before this issue, this was a company that people were wrestling with the valuation. So I don't think that this announcement today, of course the flights were canceled. Of course that's the number. Of course United is running for cover, and it's a CYA for them because they were so offsides, unlike Delta, who didn't have this kind of exposure. That doesn't surprise me.
Well, listen, the analyst community has a $386 average price target, $60 above where the stock is now. One of 2 things has got to happen. The stock's got to recover, or the analyst community is going to have to come out soon, downgrade, and start cutting their price targets.
The short-term tragedy notwithstanding, and the short-term or 2-year underperformance notwithstanding, where is this going to be 36 months out? If one's sort of a longer-term investor, and I think everyone knows it, it's going to be higher.
You think so? You're that confident?
Sure.
Okay.